Coach, the things you can't coach, size and speed, does one trump another when you're looking at a kid who may be not as big or not as fast?
Yeah, I think both those things you can obviously develop. You can develop speed, you can develop size. They've got to have the capacity and the ability, right? I think you're looking for certain measurables as a starting point to a young man to see how they fit. I think none of it outweighs the young man's obviously ability on the field, and none of it certainly outweighs their internals. There's several guys, I'll give you a good example. Rodney Hill a year ago. Rodney Hill, and Rodney wouldn't mind me telling this story, but Rodney is a linebacker for us, went to Mainland High School. Rodney was committed to Tulane early in the process to a previous staff. And I feel comfortable talking about that. Rodney committed to Tulane after going through spring recruiting, summer recruiting, and for us, the measurables are not prototypical linebacker measurables. I go, now Coach Orlando loved him, I loved him, and early on, and shame on me to be honest with you, I was like, man, like you really want to get bigger. We walked in here and you got Jalen Schuler here, you got Mac Harris here, these guys got length, got size. You're like, man, I don't want to get smaller at linebacker. Go to the state championship games a year ago, which shame on us, we can't go to those anymore because of the way the calendar is now. But go to state championship games. I'm watching the Mainland game versus St. Aug game a year ago. Really there to watch Lachlan Hewlett, who's our quarterback that we signed in this class, who then went on to commit somewhere else and then through a long recruiting process is signed here today. But I'm watching this young man play running back for Mainland, and Mainland's got all sorts of guys going all sorts of places, and it's a super talented, well-coached team. But I'm watching this guy play running back with a giant air cast on his ankle. And legitimately, I don't know, Kerry, you'd have to fact check how many times he carried the ball, but he carried a lot. And then he's playing every snap at linebacker, and he's the absolute best football player on the field for 4 quarters with an ankle that, when he took the air cast off, was this big. And then you come to find out he had been doing this for 4 weeks straight on this ankle. And literally, I walked out of there, I called T.O. and I said, I am flying to Daytona as soon as these guys get back, and I'm gonna go convince this kid to come to USF. Like, that kid is who you build your program around. We didn't recruit him long enough at that point to even, that I knew anything about him other than what I just watched. And I had watched the film. T.O. had been to spring practice. There have been a lot of checklists that we went through 2 years ago now, and none of it checked off going in. He was committed somewhere else. Watched 4 quarters of the game, the most important game of that kid's life, and I left there and I said, that's who I'm hitching my wagon to. I don't know anything about him. He's not big enough. I get it. This kid is gonna be special. He played, I don't know how many snaps for us on special teams as a freshman this year. Just watched them, today's their day off. I just watched them walk off the practice field with a group of linebackers. I don't know what they were doing. It's their off day, but they were doing something, working, and that is the young man you want to build your program around. And there's a lot of those examples, but I'm giving you an example where I can admit I was wrong on the size. So you're trying to recruit guys that certainly have the intangibles in terms of the size, but the internals, which is Rodney, and like I said, I've joked with Rodney about this, I don't feel bad telling the story, but the internals are going to be way, 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 way more important than anything else.
Coach, you talk about players being the best recruiters. Do you even talk to an Australian punter if you don't have a mate on board here who can convince this guy to come from down under to Florida?
You know what? He was here this summer, and I think Florida sells itself, and Luke fell in love with this place as soon as he saw it. But to have Andrew here, that's who, I mean, he's literally taken over his apartment lease, and to have a guy that's gone through the same exact program. He's not as old as Stokes, which is Stokes is literally 30 years old. So it's good that Luke's a little bit younger. But to have somebody that you can say, man, this guy went through the same program, has now had all this success, like to be able to point and say, there's your example, is super, super easy. And Andrew did a great job setting an example, and we're super excited about Luke, like highly, highly talented young man.
Thanks, Coach.